Do you like the Portuguese language more than Portuguese food, or vice versa? Which one would you?
That's a
Is
really
it
good
tough?
question. I never thought about it. Maybe I can say that I like them equally because they're very similar when we look at it, actually.
Okay, unpack that a little bit.
I normally say this, language, food, and culture, they normally go hand in hand with each other. When we go and see the history of the Portuguese food, I studied that in university, the history of gastronomy and so forth. And then you actually also see the history of the Portuguese language in itself. They're very much connected because we ended up acquiring and sharing dishes from our culture and from other cultures.
Portugal.
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 Our vegetables are like rock stars.
Literally, Portugal is a small Disneyland for grown-ups.
I think that Portugal is like my geographic soulmate.
It's hard to explain what it is because it's a feeling.
And when I went there, I absolutely fell in love with Portugal.
I wanted to feel the crunchiness.
Portugal, the Simple Life podcast.
Portugal, the Simple Life podcast.
And we're here on his podcast, Portugal Simple Life.
Portugal, the Simple Life podcast, your insider's perspective into Portugal. And our latest episode starts right now. Welcome back, or welcome to another episode of Portugal, the Simple Life. And I'm really happy to be joined here by Catarina Bento. Catarina, boa tarde.
Hello.
Thank you for being on the podcast. How are you?
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very, very well. Good. What about you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you. It's Friday. We're
It's
recording this on a Friday, so weekends are always good in Portugal.
true, true, true. Getting ready for this weekend in Lisbon, so very
Okay.
excited.
I'm doing harvest.
What do you mean?
Vindima.
Vindima.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
it's great.
coming to travel. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, exactly. Katerina, why don't you start off telling us a bit about you?
Okay, so my name is Catarina. I was born and raised in Lisbon. I now live in Coimbra.
Alfacinha.
Yes, I'm Alfacinha, exactly. And I teach Portuguese, but funny enough, I actually did a bachelor's in cooking. So my
Okay.
background is gastronomy and everything. And then that's when I found out that I actually liked languages a bit more and started teaching. I like eating and having experiences and basically everything that Portugal has to offer, like the Portuguese lifestyle,
Yeah.
everything of that.
Do you like the Portuguese language more than Portuguese food, or vice versa? Which one would you?
That's a
Is
really
it
good
tough?
question. I never thought about it. Maybe I can say that I like them equally because they're very similar when we look at it, actually.
Okay, unpack that a little bit.
I normally say this, language, food, and culture, they normally go hand in hand with each other. When we go and see the history of the Portuguese food, I studied that in university, the history of gastronomy and so forth. And then you actually also see the history of the Portuguese language in itself. They're very much connected because we ended up acquiring and sharing dishes from our culture and from other cultures.
Yeah.
For instance, the Asian, India, and China, we started sharing, but also linguistically speaking, we also borrowed things from them and gave them things.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to see how they connect and how they are so closely related. And yeah, I would say gastronomy and language are very, especially in Portugal, are very connected.
Well, most of our sayings in Portugal are related to food, Peixe no puxa carroça, these kind of things. There's always some connection with food.
It is true. I think it's a very big part of our culture. Everything that we do is about food, even business. When we do business, it's sitting in a table eating,
Yeah,
basically. So it's kind of like it's in us, it's intrinsic to us.
for sure. And I think also both things, food and language, at the beginning may seem a little bit daunting, but once you understand them, it just works.
It's true. It's true. Um, When due to my background, when I teach my students, I normally do a lot of comparisons to the
Okay.
background of cooking. Because back in the day, one of my teachers, she inspired a little bit the way I teach now. And she used to tell us, if you understand how things work, you will be able to do whatever you want to with it. And
Mm,
it's a little bit of how I see language also. Like in cooking, if you understand the techniques, if you understand how things relate to each other, you can do like thousands
yeah.
of dishes. Same thing in language. If you understand how the language works, you'll be able to put any ingredient you want into it and make it work for yourself.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to then find the way to understand it.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned something interesting where, in the Portuguese language, there's crossovers with other languages. I was with a Japanese client the other day,
Hmm.
and he said origato.
Hmm.
And I was like, that sounds very similar to obrigado. And did some digging, and there's a link between the two words somehow. I don't know if you.
Yeah, there are some background a little bit on that. I'm not very sure because I remember also doing some research on it, but I don't remember too much about it.
Yeah,
But there is a lot of things related to Japanese, to Chinese, to India, to
yeah.
all of those countries. Even like specific words. In Hindi, if you want to say table, is mez. If you want to say
Mm,
in Portuguese, is mesa
yeah,
or key, chave, and chabi, for instance.
yes,
So
Shabi.
it's very connected. It's very interesting.
Yeah, super interesting. I mean, you've traveled quite a bit. You with through your work, you've encountered people from different backgrounds, from different parts of the world. What do you think is it about this country that is calling to people, should we say, that is attracting people here, that you think is special?
I believe it can be multiple things. I've heard about the warmth of the Portuguese people, which brings people closer. Also, the feeling of home. A lot
Mm,
of people say that it feels like home. As a Portuguese person, it looks biased if I say stuff like this, kind of like we're
yeah,
very nice. But from also picking on what some of my students have said is the feeling of home. They feel very welcome when they come to Portugal. They feel like here they can enjoy peace, they can enjoy life, and also they don't feel like their life is not running by them. They are actually stopping and pause, and they can enjoy life as it is without the pressures. Um, and in Portugal, we've seen multiple times, and I think it's something a little bit across the country because even being our country is very small, but is very diverse and
mm,
has multiple types of things in it. And but overall, we value family very much,
yeah.
and we value the simple pleasures of life. And I think that's very appealing to other people that come here.
For me, it's always been the relationship with time, that we have in Portugal. There's time for everything. Not for everything, but there's time for the things that matter, a connection, a conversation.
True.
A lunch on a Saturday or Sunday is never a lunch. It's a convivio. It's people sitting around for hours. We make time for those things. And that's something I think that's missing so much in the world today is everyone's running and rushing and here we still have this relationship with time, which is super interesting.
It's almost like time stops.
Yeah.
When you're here, time stops, and you have the ability to do things that you actually enjoy, things that you find pleasurable. Even going like going to certain parts of Portugal, you can feel that very much, where you just
Yeah.
stop and you spend a day and you just feel relaxed and you feel like your battery is completely charged.
Yeah.
It's rare to find that.
Yeah, it is. Um, how's the move been? How's the, because you born and raised in Lisbon. Obviously, Lisbon has changed a hell of a lot in the last 10 years. Actually 20 years. When I remember it 20 years ago, it was a completely different feel and pace and everything. It's changed a lot. How has the change been from going from a place like Lisbon to Coimbra? And why did you make that move? Just out of curiosity.
It's very, very different. Before I moved to Coimbra, I also lived in Porto. My first move was Lisbon to
Okay, that's even more of an extreme move,
it
south
was
to north.
yeah, I was born and raised in Lisbon, and I thought it was Lisbon, coming from my perspective, which can change for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I felt it was very businessy for me at the
Okay.
time. And so I moved to Porto because I felt like in Porto is more about friends and enjoy life and chill. And that for me was a good move. I really enjoyed it. And also, the Portuguese people up north are very different from the Portuguese people in Lisbon.
Yeah.
And I wanted to try and experiment. I was young when I moved. I moved about 8 years ago.
Okay.
And so it was like good to get to know more people, a different side of our country, a different side of our culture. And then eventually I moved to Coimbra because my boyfriend is studying there in the university. So I ended up going to Coimbra to be
Okay.
closer to him so that I wouldn't have to drive all the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Tell us a bit about the work that you're doing, and how that happened.
So back in university, as I said before, I studied gastronomy in university, and for that I had to learn languages. Before I grew up with Portuguese and English, so these two languages were already part of me. And then I had to learn French, and in university I had to learn more French and Spanish because it was part of tourism, gastronomy, and
Okay.
they required that. That's when I started also finding out that I actually enjoyed learning languages because of what it brought to me. Because when you learn a language, you learn a culture and you get to connect with other people. And by connections, you get experiences that shapes you as a person. So it's this whole dimension that I started finding out that got me very curious about it. And so then I have ADHD. So that made me become addicted to learning languages
Wow.
through an obsessive period of time.
Yeah.
And with that, I started developing my own method to learn languages. And that's when then I started going into other cultures, for instance, with Hindi, with Korean, with Japanese, and going through those languages and seeing that this method kind of applied. And throughout my time, because I had ADHD, it's seen as a learning disability, which to a certain extent it could be real, but it's more about how people actually teach you things. It's about the method you apply. Because normally ADHDers are really good at what they do if they have it presented in a way that appeals to them. So then when I started teaching English on that method, and then one of my friends from Germany told me, look, you could apply that to Portuguese and that would be interesting because you're Portuguese, you like the culture, you know the gastronomy, you know the language, you know the inside out of everything, and you've been doing the bridge between cultures since you're very young. Why don't you try and see how that goes? Yeah, I gave it a try and then I really, really started enjoying it. And since then, I haven't stopped. So it's been a few years already since 2017. And basically, what I do now is try to help people to connect with Portuguese people, people to connect through language. Also, kind of demystifying that learning is difficult. And the ultimate goal is also helping them to experience the Portuguese life. Because if you don't speak the language, there's a lot of stuff that you're going to be missing out on. So by learning that, you'll be able to connect and to experience a whole different side of life, which I think it's very important for us also as people, as humans.
Yeah. Okay. There's a few things I want to unpack there. So you've picked up a bit of Hindi.
Hindi, yes.
Your husband is
He's Punjabi. He's Punjabi.
Oh, okay.
So technically, he speaks Hindi. Indeed, he
Yeah.
speaks Hindi. But now I'm also learning Punjabi for the family. But I started way before him because I had a
Okay.
friend of mine. She was Indian, and so I started learning
Okay.
Hindi with her.
And Japanese.
I know how to read Japanese. I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm reading.
Okay.
Because
How many languages do you speak?
So I speak Spanish, Portuguese, English, Italian, even though I need to brush it up a little bit because I haven't spoken in a long time, Hindi, Korean, and I know how to read some Japanese. And I am kind of like dabbling a little bit on Chinese, but again, I Punjabi is priority, so I stopped Japanese and Chinese to go into Punjabi a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So we're talking eight? That I count correctly? Is that eight? Something like that.
maybe 7, something like that. I don't count them at this
Okay.
point. I'm like,
So you're on the upper end, but I mean, it's quite common to find people in Portugal who speak 2, 3 languages. What is the deal in Portugal with? Because it's something I'm in, as you know, I'm in real estate. I've got clients from all over the world. Every one of them that come to Portugal, they are blown away by the capacity people have here to speak English, if not multiple languages. Why is it that way? Why do Portuguese have this capacity to speak different languages?
so I have multiple factors in mind.
Go for it.
Let's start maybe with the easiest one, which is first of all, we're in contact with Spanish people. So that somehow, because of the connectors of the language and the same root, it makes it easier for us to pick up on Spanish. It's true that sometimes we speak Portuñol, which is Portuguese with a Spanish accent.
But when you read Spanish and you read Portuguese, there's a lot of it's very similar, but the sounds are not. The sounds are considerably different.
That is true. That is true. Because Spanish enunciates everything. We don't. We don't enunciate everything.
Yeah.
So that's one of them.
That's one.
The second one is also the fact that in schools we have 2 languages. So in school, since we're young, we start learning English.
In addition to Portuguese.
In addition to Portuguese, yes. So we then study English. Normally, I cannot speak for the whole country, but normally it starts with English.
Yeah.
And then I believe in high school, we start being, in my high school, I got in contact with French, but there was options such as German and Italian also.
Okay.
So it's part of the curriculum in Portugal to have people at least have 2 extra languages to Portuguese.
Yeah. So I know my son, he's already started doing English. He speaks English already, so he's got an advantage because mom speaks Portuguese. So at our home, all 3 of our children are bilingual. So all 3 speak English and Portuguese fluently, because I speak English with them and mom speaks Portuguese. So he's already started doing English at age 6. So that's a huge thing because not a lot of your European countries do that. And then the third, I think Spanish is also an option, or
it's an option. Yes, it's an option. Yeah.
Okay, and
Spanish, Italian, and German, they are options, yes.
Is television also a factor, the fact that we hear it?
Yes, that was going to be my other point, which is, well, up until now, actually, because I've started realizing that we started doing that recently. We normally wouldn't do voiceovers or
dubbing,
dubbing, exactly. We used to put subtitles in it. So we kind of like grew up. I remember being a child and seeing Dexter's Laboratory in English and having Cartoon Network all in English, or seeing then other cartoons in Spanish. And as a child, I started soaking up the languages and kind of like understanding a little bit of everything in cartoon. So that exposure also helps us pick up languages. And another thing, which to a certain extent helps with the French, is we have a lot of immigrants that went to French-speaking countries, and then they came back. So grandparents that spoke French, and that also then influenced a little bit the language. Exactly. So the grandchildren speak it.
Because there's also a big difference between the capacity to speak another language and the willingness to speak another language, which again, in some of your other, let's say, just be broader, just to be more general and not use any country in particular, they don't want to speak another language.
That is true.
There's a willingness of the Portuguese to be open like that.
I think in our own makeup, Portuguese people are very curious and very open to experiment new things. People are curious to get along with other things, to other cultures. We've seen that through history, for good and for worse. But the Portuguese personality is very much like that. So again, speaking the language opens doors to other worlds, to other things, and the Portuguese are very curious, especially the younger generation. They want more and more to get to know people and to get to know other cultures.
Yeah. Then you also alluded to, you also mentioned something else, is that you will experience the country in a different way, in a deeper way when you know the language. Just tell us a little bit more about your thoughts there.
So, learning any language, but applying this to Portuguese, to understand how we speak, you need to understand our experiences and you need to understand our culture to a certain extent to be able to then deeply understand us. Because we have a lot of colloquialisms and expressions that come through our previous experiences and what we as a culture or as a being have been through in the past. And so the language evolves like that. And the thing is also, once you learn Portuguese, you are able to talk to varieties of people all over the country. And you'll see that you have various experiences from various levels of the people living here that will give you a much bigger awareness of what Portugal actually is.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, Portugal is not just what happens in Porto, Lisbon, or the Algarve. We have a whole set of Portugal that is unexplored. We don't go to the interior or up north. If a lot of times we get to speak with older people, with older Portuguese people, you get a lot of experience from what Portugal used to be 50, 60, 70 years ago. And then you start understanding why we do the things we do, why the culture is the way it is. And when you do that, you're able to connect with us to a much deeper level than if you just stay at the surface and kind of like get the basics of the language. You can do that, but then these deeper conversations, these, let's call them cultural exchanges, don't happen. And so you get to miss up on a lot of stuff when this happens, even the smallest traditions, things that we do that are part of the country.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I arrived in Portugal, 2009, I couldn't speak any Portuguese, and now I still wouldn't say I'm 100% fluent. My wife says I am, but like I still make mistakes in pronunciations and grammar and things like that. But I found now being able to have conversations and being able to understand things that there's it's the little stories that you hear about a place or about a dish or about, you know, a castle that you wouldn't know if you didn't know the language or weren't able to have that conversation. And I think it's an amazing thing. You know, we've got, for our listeners, they're from all over the world, and it's people that are wanting to know more about Portugal, wanting to move to Portugal, not just to become a tourist, but to actually become part of something and a community. And I think the language is always the doorway to that in a big way. And although I think it's really interesting, because I think although Portuguese people are very open and friendly and welcoming and will happily speak another language to make you feel welcome, when you do speak Portuguese, there's an appreciation. And it's almost like you showing that person, hey, I don't just want to be a tourist here. I want to be part of this, and I want to be part of this community.
True. And you know, Portuguese people, we are people that we are people that it's easy to please. And the thing is, when people go the extra step, it's very good. It's we appreciate it very much. And this is another thing that I was thinking, is like the Portuguese language is about concepts that are based off of experiences. And sometimes in translations, a lot of things get lost.
Yeah.
And once you start speaking Portuguese, you're able to understand that. And you're able to get all the little gems and the little pearls that comes from these things.
You're able to read between the lines a little bit as well.
Exactly.
That maybe you wouldn't be. And very importantly, I think for people listening, there's no language shaming in Portugal. I've never experienced language shaming, if you know what I mean, where someone has kind of been mean to you because you can't speak the language. That doesn't happen here. It does happen other places that I've experienced, but never in Portugal.
You might have something which is something that even we go through. Me being from Lisbon and have lived in Porto and in Coimbra, they will pick on our accent because it's something from Portugal. We're very small, but every little place has their own accent. So sometimes you'll probably listen like, no, 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 that's not the way you say it. It's like this way, and it's actually more accent based than actually you saying things wrong. So if some of the
It's
listeners
accent,
are in a
yeah.
situation,
That's the only time that anybody's made fun of my Portuguese. Actually, is I have a colleague, and he regularly tells me that when I speak Portuguese, I sound Ukrainian. That I speak with a Ukrainian accent. But he's never actually said your Portuguese is horrible. He says your Portuguese is good, but you speak it with an accent. So yeah, the accent thing is funny. Yeah, we have a brother-in-law. Our brother, my wife and I's brother-in-law. He's Azorian.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that is nice.
yeah, but it's difficult to understand sometimes. Like I really battle to understand what he's saying sometimes. It's a challenge.
Join the club. I remember once I went on vacation to Madeira and we found an Azorian family. It was complicated to understand them because they close very much. And I don't know if you noticed, but sometimes in news pieces, when an Azorian is speaking, we have subtitles.
Yeah, I have.
Because that's the majority. So accent is something very, very common, and it's not bad. It's just different.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the only thing that I that Portuguese people will kind of notice and point out, but not out of a bad place. Actually, it's just as a interesting. Oh, that's good. But
and what I found the longer I spend time here, I found that initially when you're just a stranger to a person, they won't correct your Portuguese. They'll be like, okay, it's fantastic. When they feel like they have a relationship with you, then it's like, okay, but you said that word a little bit badly. And then maybe they'll make fun of the accent as well.
True. Because they're afraid of offending you.
Yeah.
Basically. They don't want to discourage you. They want to be like, keep going, you're doing awesome. So they don't say anything. But it's just for motivation, nothing else.
Between my job as a realtor at Portugal Realty and hosting this podcast, life is pretty busy. But lately I've been receiving so many messages from people that want to know more about buying property here on Portugal's Silver Coast that I've got to do something about it. So starting now, for subscribers only, I'm offering up a 30-minute session per day. That's 5 30-minute sessions for a one-on-one meeting to talk about buying property here on Portugal's beautiful Silver Coast. This is for subscribers only. So please subscribe to book your session and get in touch with us through the links below via WhatsApp or email to book your session today. I'll be happy to speak to you. It's for subscribers only and it's completely free. The language is a wonderful doorway to a culture, to understanding people, to understanding the stories of a place, to understanding background. Is Portuguese a difficult language?
It depends on the mindset that you come from.
Okay.
It has a lot of hard work. Would I say it's difficult? It depends. I have a lot of people coming up to me and telling me, oh, this is so difficult, I can't do it. When you start with that mindset, yes, it's going to be difficult. Okay? The thing is, there's two things that we need to have in mind in this situation, which is for someone that maybe is learning alone, it might be difficult because you don't know where to start or how to get it in the most efficient way. That will add difficulty to it. When you have someone that can guide you or tell you where to do and how to start, that will make it easier because you have a plan to start with. Now, will I say that you will get it faster and it will be just like this? No, it requires hard work. As any other language, it requires hard work. It is true, we have a lot of situations where we have concepts that you need to understand, where translation doesn't cut it. And for people who follow me on Instagram, they might have realized that I sometimes actually put wrong translations in English, which is actually literal translations. I call it broken Portuguese.
Yeah, you did it on a post where you spoke about estou cansada, mas ainda saiu. And the literal translation is I was tired, but I still went out. Or I still left.
Yeah.
But in English, we'd say I went out.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the reason why I do that is because And again, this has to do with the mindset, okay? In learning languages, we need to have a clean slate when it comes to these things because we are learning a different way of expression. We're learning a different culture. I tell my students, you need to create a whole personality and a whole different brain for this because the way you talk in English is not the way you speak in Portuguese, okay?
Interesting.
So you need to learn how to speak broken English to then do proper Portuguese. I don't know if you noticed, a lot of people that speak Portuguese speak English the way they speak Portuguese.
Yes.
And that's the thing. You only truly, well, let me not, I won't say it that you only truly become fluent because that's not correct. But you will become closer to a native if you learn how to speak your language brokenly.
Interesting.
Even if this is kind of like a word, okay? Because by knowing that Portuguese people, for instance, we say pôr a mesa. If we learn that Portuguese people say to put the table instead of set the table, your brain goes directly into this because it's a weird concept. So you memorize it and you're like, oh yeah, they don't say to set, they say to put. So you automatically do the translation correctly. Instead of you forcing yourself to kind of like, no, this is not how it's done and it's so different from English, that adds a layer of complexity that you don't need. You need to see it as a game. It's kind of like, oh, let's see what they say differently from us. I had that with Hindi because they're very poetic. They don't say things the way we say it.
Yeah.
And so that helps you then stick with language. That's why I say you need to create a different, I call it a different brain for each language you learn. Because then you can create like an anchor to kind of like get you to go to that set of information. It's like each language is in a box. So that's the reason why I put literal translations on my posts because the idea is for you to start learning the broken English that can translate to Portuguese. Because if you do that, then when you read, you understand what we want to say. You understand how the structure works. Because we learn based off of what we know. What you know, okay, let's use English as the main point, as the set point. What you know is English. So it's easy for you to understand broken English more than trying to translate with no linking point. So if you do English, broken English, and Portuguese, you have a connector that it's seamless. Whereas if you do proper English to Portuguese, you don't have you have connectors, but you have more differences than similarities. So it will become difficult.
Yeah.
So would I say it's difficult to learn Portuguese? No, to a certain extent, but you need to have a strategy and you need to know how to do it.
Okay.
But this is for any language.
Yeah. Yeah, because when I came, I was stubborn. I was like, I need to learn the language. That was one of my first things that I knew I was coming to a different country. I knew that it was going to be different. These are all, I think, important mindsets to come with. But I started going for like your standard Portuguese lessons, kind of the ones that they do when you're preparing for your A1 or your A2. And it was all grammar. And I got really frustrated. And I'm not really a classroom person as well. And it was 3 nights a week. And I was just like, and I wasn't getting anywhere. I wasn't getting any better enough. I actually stopped. I bunked and I was like, I'm just going to go. And I'm going to go to random places and I'm just going to force myself to speak and listen. And that's how I kind of learned. So my written Portuguese is pretty bad. My spoken Portuguese is much better than my written Portuguese. I mean, so with this kind of strategy of, so it's breaking your breaking your English to link up better to the Portuguese. Am I understanding that?
Yes, that's a secondary step.
Okay, what's the first step?
Remember when I told you a while ago that I had a teacher that she inspired me into understanding how to use things and then go from there. Well, I don't do grammar drills. I'm an ADHDer. I can't do classes. I can't be sitting in a classroom. I die after 30 minutes.
Yeah,
so that doesn't work.
Great Portuguese teacher. Fantastic. Yeah.
That doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So what happens is developing a method. The way I learn languages is the way I teach languages.
Okay.
So basically what I developed a cheat sheet for my students. And when you have the math tests that you have the formulas on the side. So I created some formulas for Portuguese so that from class 1 they can start speaking, but in a way that is not overwhelming. And I normally say, and it depends on the student because some people learn faster than others. Let's say in the first 3 classes, I cover the basics, which indeed has some verbs to it, but is just explaining how they work and their importance in Portuguese, because verbs carry a very big importance when it comes to communication. And I just explain how that part goes. Normally it's 3 classes, depending on the average. And then from then on, we actually start speaking. We have the cheat sheet so that you don't have to become overwhelmed in trying to remember everything. We learn those things passively. But then we start reading and speaking. So the second, we go to the broken English part where we read, we go and see the vocabulary, and then I ask questions. And they need to use the cheat sheet and apply the small formulas and tricks I gave them to answer with the help of the text. And they start speaking. Normally by lesson 1, they start speaking with me. It's not something amazing and big, but it's enough to start developing the confidence. So by norm, depending. And another thing that is important to have in mind, is the fluency and the development of someone is dependent on how much they put into it. Students that, for instance, do 4 hours a week with me normally achieve fluency in 3 months.
Wow.
People that do once a week, of course, it's going to take longer. Okay. But the thing is, like, the fact that you start speaking in right from day one, instead of having to memorize all the grammar drills and all the grammar stuff in it, makes it easier. I cannot do that. My memory is horrible. So I'm not going to require something from you that I can't do myself. And it needs to be enjoyable. If you're learning a language, you need to enjoy it. Why try to cram in a lot of stuff? So that's the first part, is understanding how it works. I'll teach how it works, how we need to put stuff together so that then it's kind of like in cooking. You read the recipe to know what you have to prepare. And then you go and you have the ingredients, and I give you ingredients. But because you understand what's before, you can now use it. Even if I change the ingredients, you can use it.
Gotcha.
So that's the thing. I create the trunk of the tree, and then I give you the leaves in the second part, which is where you start applying the broken English, the vocabulary. And then it's from there you start speaking. So it looks very simplistic. It does take work. It's not that difficult, but it takes work.
So by cheat sheet, it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. You still got to work at it.
True.
How important is hearing the language?
Very.
Because again, when you read it and when you hear it, it's completely different. And I found that after living here for a while, there was just a stage where something dropped, something clicked, and I could just hear it more.
Yes.
And being able to hear it helped me a lot.
It's very interesting. I tell this to multiple people. At the beginning, they don't believe me. They're like, "You're crazy, lady. You're crazy." I'm like, no. Trust me. My craziness has a method to it, which is I tell them from the day one, start watching cartoons in Portuguese. Put them on the background. Just do that. Because our brain sees patterns, and we need to expose ourselves and immerse ourselves into the listening to start seeing patterns. It's like a child. So the more you listen to it, interestingly, the language somehow, you start percepting it differently. And it's weird, and I quite don't know how to explain this. It's like as if the language starts slowing down, bit by bit. And then there's a point where kind of like, I understood this word. What happened here? It's by immersion. Like, the more you do it, your brain starts understanding the patterns and starts processing it. And once it's processing it, you start picking on the cues that you didn't. So like whatever is processed, okay, done. It's in a box. Now let's see the rest and the new things. So the more you do this, the easier it gets, and the patterns start showing up. And it's actually interesting that you mentioned that you started listening and you didn't understand. And there is also a little trick that people can do on that, which is, I normally say this, don't treat Portuguese as if you knew the language just because it has the same alphabet. You can't. Because It's like if someone is learning Hindi and Hindi has a different alphabet from us, it doesn't have a Romantic alphabet. You need to think of Portuguese as if it was Hindi. You need to listen and put your own sounds on it. I also teach my students how to do that so that when they listen, it's easier. Because if you look at a word, and this happens very frequently, and we say it, what you expect to hear based off of what you look at, because you already have English as a base, so you're expecting it to be the same, is not the same.
Yeah.
That is one of the first obstacles to go against is, okay, it's Portuguese. Let's pretend that this is a whole different language. I don't know any of these letters. That will make the listening much, much easier on ours.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
It's weird, but it's true.
No, it makes sense. I started listening to the news. I would just a lot of Nilton on the radio. You know, Nilton, the guy making the prank phone calls, because he also used to use different accents and dialect. So that I found helped. And then I was just lucky. I would go play football with some local guys and hear all the bad words as well. You know, those ones that we're not allowed to say on here, because there's kids. Yeah. But yeah, it was the best way. It was just hearing it, and that made a huge difference as well.
True. Hearing, and sometimes if you can, hearing while looking at something.
Yeah. I would, and I would, if there was something on in Portuguese, I would put on English subtitles.
Yes, that's good.
That helped a lot. Or I would listen to somebody reading something in Portuguese. Just read that for me, and that was really helpful.
And not thinking that that's cheating, because a lot of the times I have people coming up to me with that mentality, because that comes from school, from how we are taught, which sometimes it's not the best way in reality. Just because you need subtitles or you need the transcription doesn't mean you're cheating. So I want people to understand this also.
Yeah.
We're no longer in school. We're not going to be tested on something. Not cheating. It's actually being efficient on our learning. That will make us learn faster. So if people can do that, that's really, really good, and will speed up the process.
Yeah.
A good tip.
Do you want to do a mini test?
Bora.
Vamos lá.
Vamos lá.
Vamos lá.
Então, como está a ser Portugal?
Como está a ser Portugal?
Uhum.
Eu
Estás a gostar de Portugal?
gosto muito. Gosto das pessoas. Gosto muito da comida. Se vês a minha barriga, tá bué grande. Tá fora da ecrã agora. Mas gosto muito das pessoas. Gosto muito do segurança. Eu tive em África do Sul e temos muitos problemas em África do Sul com segurança, e esta foi muito importante para mim, que é o viver em uma paz como segurança. Gosto de tudo.
Qual foi coisa em que tiveste mais dificuldade em adaptar-te?
Pá, toda a gente diz em termos de esta palavra é bem difícil, é buro- já can't say. Bureaucracy.
Burocracia.
Difficult.
Burocracia. Slice it.
Sim. Toda a gente diz este é um problema em Portugal. Esta não foi muito chocante para mim, porque está complicado nos muitos sítios, não é? A coisa foi mais surpreendente foi a relação que os portugueses têm com comida. Porque na África do Sul tudo está rápido. Comes e sais. Vamos comer, temos de ver um jogo, ou temos de sair daqui. E também tenho uma esposa portuguesa e a gente não vai para um sítio só para ver um castelo ou só para ver alguma coisa. A gente vai para um sítio também para comer. E a primeira coisa que está importante é o restaurante.
Verdade.
Depois é o castelo, ou o santuário, ou o mosteiro. E esta foi a coisa que eu não estava acostumado.
Verdade. Comida para portugueses é o suficiente para arruinar um dia.
Exato. nosso casamento, minha esposa não estava. Claro, ela estava preocupada com o sítio, a música, a coisa, mas a coisa que ela estava mais preocupada foi a comida. Porque
Yep.
toda a gente vai lembrar comida mal e pronto, comida. Esta foi a coisa mais surpreendente.
Casamentos portugueses, quanto mais comida, melhor é.
Sim,
É igual.
é,
Qualidade do casamento iguala comida.
é verdade.
Basicamente é isso.
É verdade, é verdade.
Sim, é verdade. E vamos ver o que é que eu posso perguntar mais.
Vamos lá, mais uma.
Mais uma.
Mais uma.
Hum, e
And then you're going to correct me, right?
yes.
Okay, cool. Gotcha. Go.
Okay. Other than burocracias, so far so good.
That word's tough. That word and I always used to struggle with the word campainha.
Campainha.
Yeah,
I
now
will
it's
give you a
okay.
trick. I will give you a trick in a little bit
Yeah,
to
okay.
be able to pronounce these difficult words.
Yeah, yeah.
Qual é o teu sítio favorito em Portugal?
Onde eu vivo, onde eu morar. Esta zona, perto de Caldas da Rainha, Nazaré, São Martinho do Porto, Óbidos, é uma zona espetacular para viver. Há outros sítios que eu gosto muito. Douro, o Douro está espetacular, parece um outro mundo. Açores, só foi no São Miguel, ainda não explorei as outras ilhas, mas Açores é espetacular. Também gosto muito de Madeira.
Sim, Madeira é muito bonito. Muito bonito.
Algarve é o parte de baixo da lista.
Eu gosto do Algarve, mas
É,
não me identifico com o Algarve.
yeah. Para mim é muito. Primeiro lugar, é muito turístico, mas também muito calor. Eu gosto dos temperaturas mais médios.
Como eu, sim,
Yeah,
sim.
yeah.
Eu cresci a ir para o Algarve. O Algarve de há 30 anos é
Sim,
muito
foi
diferente do Algarve
muito
agora.
diferente, sim. Yeah,
Muito.
eu lembro a Tavira 20 anos atrás e adorei, e
Uhum.
agora está muito diferente.
Sim, é verdade. Eu continuo no Algarve. Eu gosto muito de lagos.
Ok, sim.
É o meu sítio
Sagres
favorito.
também é muito fixe.
Também gosto de Sagres, mas quando, se tiver de ir de férias, vou para Lagos.
Ok, muito bom.
É bonito. É pequenino, tem a
Sim,
marina,
sim.
é agradável.
Mais calminha.
Sim,
Yeah,
sim, verdade.
boa.
Muito bem.
Ok, give it to me. Let me
Just
have it.
Yeah, no, your Portuguese it's very, very good. As you
Yeah,
said, there's a few mistakes, a few things, more about polishing, just some
yeah.
verb conjugations.
Okay.
And one little thing which a lot of people do, like for instance, when we say 3 years ago or 5 years ago, there's an easy way for you to say. You could say há and then the time. So há 2 anos, two
Okay.
years ago. Um, it
Instead of
sounds
3 anos
instead
atrás ou.
Exactly. You
Okay.
could say that. You can say that.
Yeah.
But the a is more, normally it's the more common used one. Há
Gotcha.
3 anos, por exemplo. I remember in school, because these things, even though people think that is just when someone is learning a new language, as natives, when we go to school and we learn, we are corrected in these things. I
Yeah.
remember that we used to say, há 3 anos atrás, and our teacher would be like, you don't need to repeat everything, you just need to say one of them, and then it's done.
Yeah.
And just some verb conjugations. Some are in the present, need to
Gotcha.
put it in the present rather than the infinitive, but other than that, very, very good. I can see what they say about the Ukrainian accent.
Really?
I don't think it's as I don't think it's as intense as
Yeah.
people might make it seem. Because I
Yeah.
have a lot of Ukrainian and Russian students
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
and normally it's it's light. It's just like we know because we're used to listening to it.
Sure. Sure.
The Portuguese,
Yeah.
but your accent is very, very good.
Okay.
Maybe just open
Good
a
to
little
know.
bit more your mouth when you speak. But it's
Gotcha.
very good. Good job.
cool. You studied tourism with your gastronomy and everything. And now Portugal is now very much in vogue in fashion. There's YouTube channels, there's vlogs, there's brochures, it's in every magazine. What is the stuff that you want to tell people about your country that they're not going to find in a brochure? The things that you want them to come here and enjoy?
No, that's a good question. It's interesting. I need to I need to give a little bit of spoilers. I'm actually creating something on those bases to show
Okay.
people the hidden gems of Portugal. I think
Gotcha.
people overvalue places like Porto, Lisbon, Coimbra, and the Algarve.
Hmm.
We are now starting to create more awareness about the other places of Portugal. But Portugal has a lot to offer in the places that are outside of the coastal areas. The interior of Portugal is beautiful.
Yeah.
We have places like Douro all over the country. You have a lake district in Portugal that
Yeah.
most people don't know about. You have places that snows that people are like, what do you mean it snows? Recently, I told some of my students, like, oh, if you go here and here and here in this time of the year, it actually snows. And they're like, what do you mean it snows? I'm like, yeah, you didn't know about that.
Yeah.
So it's just these little things that we tend to pick on things that people know to become more comfortable. But Portugal has a lot to offer. And one thing that I like about Portugal is we're very small. We're a very small country, but somehow we have this amazing diversity that you travel 2 hours and I wouldn't say completely different world, but
But
almost
almost.
like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
almost like it.
Yeah.
One thing that people might not know or might know about Portugal, but I always like to say this, is I normally say that Portugal is divided in three type of aesthetics and cultural backgrounds: Celtic, Roman, and Moorish, Islamic.
Mm.
And the Celtic part is in up north, and people don't know that we have bagpipe music,
Yeah.
traditional from Portugal because
Yeah.
of that. For
Yeah.
instance, up north. Or then when you go to the center of Portugal, which is very Roman, and everything has to do with being Roman, even the architecture. And then the south, which is very Islamic when it comes
Mm.
to the architecture, the food,
Yeah.
and all of that. And I want people to be curious and to take some time to explore the inside of Portugal.
Mm.
Maybe not during the summer because probably we'll get fried because
You'll
it's super
burn. You'll
hot.
burn. Yeah. Yeah.
You will burn,
Or not in
definitely.
the winter because you will freeze.
Yeah, you freeze basically. But like
Spring or
spring,
autumn. Yeah.
May is a good day. It's a good time of the year
Yeah.
to go
Yeah.
there. October also
Yeah.
for people to explore those areas because also ask locals where to go.
Yes.
Ask locals, where should I go? Where do locals go? Because that's where you get the real Portugal,
Yeah.
not in the touristic areas. I
Yeah.
think that's obvious, but I
Yeah.
always like to reinforce it.
Yeah.
Ask a random Portuguese person. The older, the better. You go to an old person, you're like, so
Yeah.
where should I go? And they will take you everywhere.
Yeah.
And
And where
that's
should I eat?
where should I eat? True. Those are good
Ask the
things.
old ones. They know. They know their stuff.
It's true
Yeah.
because I see my boyfriend. He when he first came, he was like, I don't like Portuguese food. And this is something to be wary of, which is touristic areas sell Portuguese food for tourists. They don't sell Portuguese food like locals.
Exactly.
And so you need to go to places where it's an old lady cooking. Because
Yeah.
again, even having my background in gastronomy, I cannot cook like an old lady. I don't know why. It's just this thing. They have this talent and this love in them that they put in food.
Yeah.
And it's something that you need to experience.
Yeah.
But I remember my boyfriend was like, I can't eat this Portuguese food. And we took him to a traditional Portuguese restaurant. He was like, this is so different. This is different from whatever I have experienced.
Yeah.
So it is important for people to ask for recommendations from Portuguese people.
Yeah. I
So
like that. Yeah. So that one takeaway as well. Ask people. Ask
yes,
Portuguese people
yes.
where to go, where to eat.
Mhm.
Catarina, where can people find you and follow you online?
So they can find me on my Instagram. I'm doing a little bit of remodulation on some of my other social medias, but
Yep.
the main channel where I communicate everything is on Instagram. And they can follow me at Coffee with Natas. That's my user, Coffee with Natas.
Coffee with Natas. We'll put a link in the show notes so that people can get in touch and follow you. And if you want to learn Portuguese, speak to Catarina. One more question, and a question that we ask all of our guests. Portugal, the simple life. Why?
That's a good question. I've been thinking about that question for a long time already. Because we care about what matters most, which is family and spending time with those who we love. And that's what we need to prioritize in life.
I love that. Really good. Catarina, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for inviting me. It was wonderful.
And let's end off with a Portuguese goodbye. So how's the nicest way to say goodbye in Portuguese? Ciao is overused.
True. I will leave you with something that they say at my dad's village. Bem-aja.
Bem-aja.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Bem-aja is like that good may be with you.
Nice.
So bem-aja.
Bem-aja. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thank you once again to our guests, and thank you to all of you for listening. Please subscribe, share with your friends, give us a thumbs up, and please leave a comment or a review. We always love to hear from you. Don't forget, Portugal The Simple Life also has a magazine, so download it. It's for free. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode, and as we say in Portugal, sejas bem-vindo. Welcome to The Simple Life.